Hi friends, welcome. You're here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and if you're new to my channel, that's great. I'm starting a series. We will together be using a few books to decode Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot. It's pronounced a few different ways: Thoth, Thoth, Toth, and I've heard it pronounced a new way just the other day. I use these two books by Aleister, and then I also kind of have some Rider-Waite books here just to compare some differences. I also have both decks. I have a holographic Rider-Waite, and then I have the actual, the Crowley, the Thoth Tarot. So I have this book, which I recommend more than any other book on reading and actually understanding and getting new layouts, and it's just an all-purpose book for the deck. The Crowley deck, the Thoth deck, looks like this in the box. And inside of the box, it does come with a little pamphlet that says a couple paragraphs about one paragraph on each card, okay? And then inside of this book, it will give you much more information. This book I still have a hard time decoding. It's quite old, and it maybe gives two paragraphs about, it doesn't say anything about the major arcana. It says like one sentence, and then it really goes into the minor arcana in this book, okay? Not a ton, just a couple, two paragraphs. In this book, we have pages on each card, okay? So there are differences between the Rider-Waite and the, classic decks. There are differences. Well, the suit that's called discs is called pentacles in other decks, okay? And so first, before we get into the Fool card, which is the start of the journey, card 0, I want to start with the foreword of this book so we can really understand what's going on. So this video is going to be on the foreword of the book. So let's start by lighting a candle and putting Florida water on our hands. I love to use Florida water when I'm using my books. My books are my magical tools. So you'll see me start a video like that quite often. And I'm going to light a candle from my working altar candle. I love when the sulfur sparks up like that. That's quite special to me. Alright, so let's get into the foreword of this book here, okay? It's the Handbook to the Cards by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris. Lady Frida Harris is who did the artwork on the cards. I do believe. And then it's translated from the German by Christine M. Grimm. So that is who's done this book up. But it's Aleister's words. They're just translated by her. So in the introduction, it starts and says the foreword is on page 7. So we jump to page 7, and it says a chant. I am the spirit that constantly denies, and rightly so, for everything that's ever brought to life deserves to come to naught. Better if not ever came to be. Thus, that you call sin, you see, and havoc, evil short is meant, to be my proper element. I am part of the part which once was absolute, part of the darkness which gave birth to the light. The Lord, toward your kind I have borne no hate. All of the spirits that deny, the scoffer burdens me with slightest weight. Man's activities can all too easily go slack. He loves to be in ease unqualified, hence I set companion at his side. I goad him like a devil from the back. Faust 1. So this is just some of Crowley's words. I want to say before I jump too far into the foreword that I'm not a satanic witch, but I have no problem with anybody who practices satanic witchcraft. I have just always been drawn to the Aleister Crowley deck. It was actually my first purchase in witchcraft that I ever made was this. So I know that not a lot of people like Aleister Crowley, but I adore his research that he did in magic, and his things that he did outside of that, you know, aren't my thing, but I just want to add that in there. However, I'm not afraid to use him in my work at all, because everybody has a balance. Everybody has good and evil in them. And a lot of people look at his evils, but not his goods. And what I project on my channel are his goods. Okay? So I hope that everybody gets that. The name Crowley frequently has the effect of a false password that quickly closes all doors when it is uttered. According to the proven Pharisee manner, his person and his work are readily delegated to that area of human experience, sealed off by unshakable prejudices. This then spares us, at least apparently, the conflict with all the phenomena readily associated with his name. Black magic, Satanism, black masses, everything vile, wicked, indecent, scandalous, repulsive, evil, personified. It is not the professional goal of this book to overcome the existing prejudices. We are not trying, and it's not my goal either, you know, it's not my goal. I just want to state that a little bit. We are not trying to stimulate work on the collective shadow, even if both these goals would certainly be welcome. We also naturally do not want to encourage the misuse carried on with Crowley and his work. If there are groups formed today that call themselves occult, that represent most peculiar theories and practice obscure rituals, but are actually in urgent need of psychiatric care, this has nothing to do with Crowley. If in the sterile and spirituality-stunned world, the youth search for the latest kick in black masses, and move their nightly parties to cemeteries because of the apathy of deadly boredom, it cannot be blamed on Crowley when his name is smeared into the gravestones, like when they're painting his name on the gravestones. And when Manson and other lunatics call upon Crowley in their atrocities, remember that during his lifetime Crowley never became a criminal, and that similar deeds have been committed by other mentally ill people in the name of the cross and every other lofty idea. Without a doubt, Crowley's legacy, and thereby also the tarot cards that were created according to his direction. He led Lady Frida Harris through designing the cards and the artwork. So actually it's a really beautiful story of how they came together, how the artwork happened, and where the paintings are today. So that's something awesome. Look into it. Okay, so without a doubt, Crowley's legacy, and thereby also the tarot cards that were created according to his direction, belongs to the preferred props of many of the so-called black masses of this sort. However, this does not allow for an evolution of his work, since other just as popular props are the crucifix, the Bible, and the host. And whatever excuse me, and whoever wants to forbid the dissemination of his works should be reminded that the work of one of the most excellent minds of the German people had a proven disastrous effect without ever being put on the index. When Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote The Sufferings of Young Werther, he so hit the nerves of the times. I'm going to have to get that book. Tess, if you want to send that book my way, you can. She's my book girl. He so hit the nerve of the times, and stirring the souls of his readers in such a manner, that young people committed suicides in droves. Sounds like Bird Box. This was referred to as a Werther syndrome. Wow. Interesting. In view of the fact that Crowley's tarot, which means the cards painted by Lady Frida Harris, has shown a soaring increase in popularity, it is the intent of this book to explain to those interested the deep and complex symbolism of these pictures against the backgrounds of alchemy, astrology, older tarot portrayals, and traditions of Western mythology. In doing so, we are not interested in a valuation, particularly not in categories of good and evil. Because of their nature, symbols are always ambivalent. The images of the soul they reflect the polarities of our unconscious and our reality. In our deepest, innermost thoughts, we know that all things have their light and shadow sides, which is what I was trying to explain to you guys, and that only when both poles are present is a totality formed. Our discriminating minds have tried to divide everything into pure good and pure evil for almost 3,000 years. Like, we can't be both. We are either good or evil. We either belong in prison for life or we are good enough to get out at some point. That's not right, and that's not the way that it is, in my opinion. But today, for which also psychics deserve its thanks, for which also psychics, they are gradually becoming forced to accept the insight that there is no ambiguity, that there is no unambiguity. We should be truly thankful for this perception, for it was and is the belief in a possible unambiguity in the possession of the one and only truth, which has time and again encouraged people to fight holy wars. This belief has given them the opposite right, if not even the divine mission to commit genocide, but extermination camps, burn people at the stake, torture them, or even officially call them from the highest places for murder, as recently in the case of the writer Salman Rushdie. In our opinion, it is not objectable or evil in itself to deal with the occult. However, if even the most enlightened of our contemporaries are somewhat uneasy in regards to these words, it also should not be taken lightly. And in that phrase, I think what they're trying to say is, in my opinion, you should really go with this. If you feel scared of something, if you feel scared of witchcraft, but you also feel a calling to it, my opinion is to read about it but not practice it yet. Honestly, don't do a spell until you are ready, and you will know when you're ready because you'll feel comfortable doing it. For the longest time, I felt like tarot cards were connected to the devil only. And I don't know why I thought that. I really don't. But then I educated myself because I kept becoming fascinated with them, and this was the deck that stood out to me. Not the Common Rider-Waite. For years I looked at that Thoth deck and was so drawn to the imagery before I actually purchased it. I honestly thought having it in my home could bring kind of like a Ouija board. I kind of feel more that way about a Ouija board than I do about tarot, you know. Educate yourself, though. Maybe I'm not educated enough on spirit boards and Ouija boards, but in my opinion, that's something I don't have in my home because I don't know enough about it and I don't feel comfortable. Someday I might, and then I'll know I can do it. And that's what I think that is saying. However, even if the most enlightened of our contemporaries are somewhat uneasy in regards to these words, this also should not be taken lightly. Since seen in the respect to depth psychology, the occult can be equated with the deepest unconscious mind. There must actually be a self-awareness which is strong enough to confront these unconscious contents steadfastly without letting itself be consumed by them. This latter situation would then be equivalent to that which is quite vividly termed mental disarrangement. Now, that's going to be the end of this video. We're 15 minutes in. The next section of the introduction is what is tarot, the structure of the card game, the origin of the tarot cards, the various card games, the special characteristics of the Crowley tarot in particular, and the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life will be a separate video, possibly. And then how can you learn to read the cards, frequently asked questions will be a separate video of its own. I may do frequently asked questions next. We'll see what I come up with. But come right back, because I'll be filming while you'll be watching this. Thank you for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, while we go through these books that are written by Aleister Crowley. These are the words of Crowley. And then on the Thoth Tarot. And we are going to figure out how to use this deck together, because it is complicated, it's difficult, and it is a lot different than your classic Rider-Waite. Alright, thanks for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.